Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, guys. We got a breaking trade alert as the Vancouver Canucks make a deal with the Vancouver Canucks make a trade with the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks make a deal with the Florida Panthers. We've seen this before. We're going to be going over this deal in today's video. So, we don't actually know the whole deal. I've kind of been waiting around here for like 15-20 minutes, and we haven't necessarily gotten the details of this trade. Now, as soon as this video goes up, I'm sure the details will come out. But really what this video is about for now is Olli Juolevi. Olli Juolevi, the 5th overall pick. I know my Canucks fans are going to correct me on that. The 5th overall pick back in the 2016 NHL draft. When he was drafted in his draft year with the London Knights, he played very well. A great defenseman, putting up 42 points in a 58-game season. He was really good. And he was projected to be a really talented Finnish defenseman that could be a good two-way defenseman. Definitely a lot more offensive-minded. And again, that's where the story kind of starts with Olli Juolevi. So he had his draft year, playing with the London Knights in the OHL, did very well. And then he gets drafted in 2016, where he gets drafted by the Canucks, 5th overall. He then goes back to Finland. We've seen a lot of players come out of here. Capo Kakko most recently, playing at TPS Turku in the SM Liga. He put up decent numbers there, 19 points in 38 games. Again, in a men's league, not terrible for the young player at the time. And that's when he was drafted, like 18, 19 years old. The following 2 seasons, he would spend in Utica with the Utica Comets, the AHL affiliate of the Vancouver Canucks. That is no longer the situation, but at the time, he had put up a point per game practically in his first season. He only did play 18 games that season, but he put up 13 points in 18 games. And the following season was his year in Utica again. He was in Utica, 25 points in 45 games. So you started to see, crap, what's going on here with Juolevi. In 2019-2020, he did not play. He did not play that season. And in 2020-2021, the 2021 season, which was earlier this year, if you got confused, he put up 3 measly points in 23 games with the Canucks. The Canucks kind of forced their hand. They had to put him in the lineup because they started getting some injuries to their team. And really, it was when Jack Rathbone went out, you knew Juolevi was going to take that spot. So, in his entire NHL career, in terms of the NHL, he has 3 points in 23 games in the NHL. And that was all of this past season. Now, he's 23 years old. He's still fairly young, but there is some genuine concern about where Olli Juolevi sits going into the NHL. He's a restricted free agent next summer, just signed an extension. He's got basically an entry-level deal that will end next summer in 2022. So this is a chance for the Florida Panthers coming into the equation. The Florida Panthers can decide where they want Juolevi to sit. And I think the Florida Panthers have a decent amount of depth on the blue line. I'm a little bit surprised that they made this trade. With that said, maybe it was an exchanging of personnel. So maybe they moved out a defenseman to bring him in. Or just maybe they traded a 6th-round pick. I don't know exactly what the details are. That's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming it's a mid-round draft pick, a 4th or a 5th, maybe even a 3rd for Juolevi. I think that's pretty much the value of Juolevi at this point, if they even got a 3rd-round pick. That's asking a lot there. The more troubling thing is for Jim Benning, who is known as this great, drafting wizard in Vancouver. In 2016, that draft, right? You have Austin Matthews, Patrick Laine, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Jesse Puljujarvi, and Olli Juolevi. You look at those top 5, they really haven't worked out necessarily, at least in their respective teams. Yes, Austin Matthews has worked out in Toronto. That's pending, depending on his next contract. But Austin Matthews, Patrick Laine, no longer in Winnipeg. Pierre-Luc Dubois, okay, that's not fair. They were traded for each other. At 4, Jesse Puljujarvi, there's still potential there, but he's taken a while to develop in Edmonton. And then you have Juolevi at 5. You guys want to know who rounded out the top 10? Just to add a little salt into the wound for those teams like Vancouver, who was picked 6th overall by Calgary? Matthew Tkachuk. Who was drafted 7th overall by Arizona? Clayton Keller. Okay, that's still to be determined. 8th overall, Alex Nielander. Again, he's been kind of bouncing around. He's now in Chicago. He was a Buffalo draft pick. Mikhail Sergachev, he's actually turned out pretty good. But again, he's not in Montreal where he was drafted. He's in Tampa. Just won 2 cups. Colorado, Tyson Jost or Jost, whatever you want to call it. He's been okay. But then you get deeper into that first round, and that's where it's more of a killer, especially at defenseman. 13 and 14. Carolina at 13 takes Jake Bean. Looks like a top 4 defenseman in the NHL. 14th overall, Boston takes the kid from Long Island. He takes Charlie McAvoy. Yeah, you'd probably rather McAvoy right now in Vancouver, right? And just to add more, just to make it worse, at 16, the franchise defenseman for the Arizona Coyotes, Jacob Chychrun. 16th overall. A lot of teams passed on Chychrun, I understand that. But right there is 3 defensemen that were picked after Juolevi that are better than him right now. 4, if you include Sergachev. So 4 really good defensemen they could have taken that were in their lap, and they go with Finnish defenseman Olli Juolevi. So, again, a blemish of many that is kind of becoming on Jim Benning's repertoire. And another thing I wanted to touch on was back in 2016, we're seeing a Florida Panther Vancouver Canucks trade. We've seen this before. And I think Canucks fans in the comment, or really in the threads that I was watching after this deal was kind of announced, was Canucks fans were saying, here goes another young prospect we're giving the Florida Panthers for nothing, and they're going to end up turning their career around. I think it's frustrating for this team because they just want to see their guys do well. And the first one obviously being Roberto Lewango, going back to the team he was drafted. No, he wasn't drafted by the Panthers. Luongo's had a rough career. He was drafted by the Islanders, was traded to Florida the following season for Rick DiPietro. The Florida Panthers had some success with Roberto Lewango. They send him to Vancouver. He gets booed out of Vancouver for Corey Schneider. Corey Schneider left a year later anyway. Luongo goes back to Florida. Again, Florida Panthers gaining guys from Vancouver. He had a great end to his career in Florida. Kind of a renaissance from what he had when he was in Florida before going to Vancouver. Then we see a deal in 2016 around the trade deadline where the Vancouver Canucks acquire Eric Goodbranson and a 5th-round pick in 2016, and the Florida Panthers acquire a 2016 second and 4th-round picks from the Canucks, as well as another former 1st-round pick, Jared Mccann, who has actually grinded out a pretty decent career for himself. He was in Pittsburgh last season. He's going to be in, where is he going to be this year? Oh, Seattle. He's going to be in Seattle with the expansion team. So, again, is this another tale of that where we see another Jared McCann situation? Maybe. Olli Juolevi gets it turned around. So what we're trying to figure out right now in Vancouver is Jim Benning not getting the drafting right, bringing in the right players, or is he not getting the coaches and the personnel around the players to develop them? Or is it maybe a combination of both? Because I think the Vancouver Canucks, Jim Benning, is on the hot seat. He did get that extension to stay in Vancouver, but he is nowhere in a great spot. And we know the Aquilinis, they know they need to make the playoffs. This is a Canucks franchise that demands success, demands getting into the playoffs, and they have not been doing that recently. And now, this is one of those trades where it almost becomes a necessity, but the problem is, by whatever value Benning gets for Olli Juolevi, he has to look at Juolevi as he's basically admitting that Juolevi wasn't worth that 5th overall pick. If they get a 3rd-round pick for Juolevi, that's a loss of assets for Jim Benning. Just imagine what he could have gotten for the 5th overall pick back in 2016. I'm sure there were teams that were gunning for that draft pick, and now he's going to get potentially a 3rd-round pick for this same player. He did the same thing with Jared Mccann when he sold Mccann out. And Vancouver Canucks fans were pissed when they moved on from Mccann. He found some success in Florida, and like I said, he's grinded out a little bit of a career. So again, at 23 years old, Juolevi has not reached his ceiling. He is no way done, I think. I'm not saying he's going to turn into that superstar, great defense, great offensive-minded, also a little bit of defensive-minded defenseman that he was projected to be when he was drafted in 2016. But you're looking at a guy, are you selling out too early? And I think there's a chance here that Jim Benning and the Canucks are doing that. And like I said, he's basically admitting to that by trading him out right now. So, that's it. That's all I have to say today. I think Canucks fans, it's pretty clear that Canucks fans are upset with Jim Benning and everything that's happened here with the Vancouver Canucks. Again, in 2020 seems like so long ago when they went to the Western Conference Final and were this close to going to the Stanley Cup Final, losing to Dallas, but missing the playoffs in 2021. Now you're kind of making some weird moves here, moving out a guy like Juolevi, a top 5 draft pick just a few years ago. It's not a good look for the Canucks. And again, it's death by 1,000 cuts, but I think Jim Benning, at the end of the day, if he doesn't get this team to the playoffs, he may be on his way out of Vancouver as soon as next summer. So let me know what you guys think of the Vancouver Canucks moving on from Olli Juolevi. Do you think it was worth them doing this now so they could get some value for him instead of letting him just walk to Finland next summer? Maybe they got some value for him now. Or do you think they should have stuck it out with Juolevi, tried to get the right group of guys to just gel and build some chemistry, get some confidence in the NHL? What are you guys' thoughts on that? I know my Canucks fans are going to be all over this because this is something that has happened before in Vancouver, and it's just like, here we go again. We're going to trade another top draft pick for nothing to the Florida Panthers and watch them have success down in the Sunshine State. So, guys, as always, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.